Hey, everybody. It is Thursday, March 27th. You're listening to the Mo News Podcast. I'm Moshe Wanunu.
And I'm Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to. And we ensure that you can hear Jill. Jill, what did we just teach you before this recording?
So I was unaware that the microphone that I was using, that you could actually bend it so that I could speak into it, as opposed to leaning over every time I was going to talk, which was killing my back.
Yeah, no, it's not making for anyway. Thank God we've now established this. We're in Washington.
Can we talk about? Well, first of all, we happen to be in Washington D.C. for a very cool assignment. We're going to the White House. We're talking to some Trump administration officials. We'll have those interviews later this week.
Yes. You'll probably see them up on Instagram later today, and then we'll have some more on the podcast and potentially on the interview podcast. So it depends on what we get here. But they are doing podcast interviews with multiple podcasts, and they have included us here at Mo News.
Yes, very cool. And I was going to mention that not only have I learned to use a microphone this week, at least use it properly. You did tell me yesterday that people were saying that my backdrop when I was doing the podcast, if you were watching it on video, and now we've been putting the clips on Instagram, that people were saying that I had boomer FaceTime energy.
Boomer FaceTime energy. Like Jill up in the camera, now that I know that you were leaning into your microphone. And it turns out that you needed to do what, Jill, to your camera?
I had to wipe...
You had to wipe the camera.
I had to wipe the camera.
There was too much. There was
blurry.
a smudge. There was a smudge on the camera. And it's so interesting because, like, folks, Jill spent many years working in television. So I was
in front of the camera.
In front of the camera. So I was like trying to appeal. Like, I put up these clips and I was like, you look like boomer FaceTime energy. Are you going to fix that? And Jill's like, no, I don't really care how I look.
Well, I also...
how the people on Instagram view me. So we're working on it here, folks.
So Moshe was taking kind of the passive-aggressive approach and just sort of posting them.
I'm basically going to put up clips where you don't look great and hope that that'll get you to fix your backdrop.
It didn't. Finally, over Slack, he was just like, Jill, fix your backdrop.
Look, you need to fix this. So here we are. We should get to the news, though.
All right, guys. Thank you all for humoring that, because I appreciate it. I also, by the way, am living with my in-laws who are boomers. So the backdrop was a little bit boomerish.
It wasn't the backdrop, Jill. It was
Stop blaming your in-laws.
Don't blame the in-laws. I had no issue with the backdrop. I had an issue with you leaning in, the smudge on the camera, the lighting. That's all fixable.
All right. Well, we're back in business here. Again, in Washington, D.C., just for the day. And let's get to the headlines. The latest on what's being called SignalGate. The Atlantic publishes the entire chat, which shows military plans about U.S. strikes in Yemen. But the Trump administration not backing down. They say nothing to see here. Speaking of the president, he announces 25% tariffs on all cars not made in the United States. So what exactly that means, as car prices not exactly cheap right now. Meanwhile, Wall Street posting record bonuses for 2024, but what is expected for 2025? Steph Curry teaming up with Michelle Obama to launch a sports drink. And one of our favorite topics this week, March Madness. It turns out Warren Buffett's $1 million bracket challenge finally has a winner.
He's had to make it easier through the years because of how hard it is to, get a perfect bracket.
And no, it's not a UFO. The spiral in the sky over the UK, likely from a SpaceX launch, we'll explain. And Senator Mark Kelly on adjusting to life back on Earth after space travel. Moshe, you had a very cool interview with him.
Yeah, we talked to him about the Signal situation, so we'll have a bit of that. And then I was like, well, you've been to space 4 times. Your brother holds the record for the most amount of time in space, your identical twin brother. And we just had these astronauts come back who Senator Kelly is familiar with from his days at NASA. So we talked a bit about that, so stay tuned for that.
And Moshe is on this day in history.
A big birthday for one of the more revolutionary drugs in modern American history.
All right, starting with the story that has been dominating headlines all week. On Wednesday, The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, published the full Signal chat, which he was accidentally included in. That chat details Trump officials' discussions about military strikes on the Houthis in Yemen in mid-March.
If you haven't been following this week, this was a chat that included the vice president, secretary of defense, 18 top officials, with an accidental inclusion of Goldberg, the journalist,
who for the first few days didn't think it could possibly be real. Well, in that initial piece that he wrote for The Atlantic, he said that he wouldn't publish the full thread because of its sensitive nature. But then the White House and some of the people who were a part of that chat insisted it did not include classified information or a discussion of any type of war plan. So Goldberg said, all right, and published the full thread on Wednesday. He explained in the new piece why he decided to publish the full chat. He said the assertions made by numerous administration officials that we are lying about the content of these signal texts have led us to believe that people should see the texts in order to reach their own conclusions. He said there is a clear public interest in disclosing the sort of information that Trump advisors included in non-secure communications channels, especially because they are attempting to downplay the significance of the messages that were shared. So what was in that full chat? Moshe, you screenshotted it and published it as well over on our Instagram account. It shows a message by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth in which he lays out the exact timing of the Houthi strike, including what weapons would be used in advance. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe were back in front of a House Intelligence Committee again on Wednesday in a pre-planned hearing. Congressman Jim Himes, who's the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, questioned Gabbard about her testimony the day before on Tuesday when she was really vague about what was in the chat, despite it taking place just 2 weeks ago and widespread coverage this week. Well, Gabbard stood by her remarks that she didn't recall most of the things about it. Here is a bit of their exchange.
This morning we learned that the signal chat included the following update, forward-looking update from the Secretary of Defense. Time now, 11:44 Eastern Time. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern Time. F-18 launch. First strike package. 13:45 trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch. MQ-9s. 14:10 more F-18s launch. Second strike package. Do either of the directors want to reflect on their testimony yesterday in the context of what I just read?
My answer yesterday was based on my recollection or the lack thereof on the details that were posted there.
It comes as several White House officials have been downplaying what was in the chat and trying to parse words like what war plans actually mean and the technicalities of what it means to be classified. Moshe, not everyone is buying it, though.
Yeah, we're hearing from people within DOD who are members of the news community, military officials, folks on Capitol Hill, Republicans and Democrats who are saying that, like, listen, the TikTok of a military strike may have been declassified later, but in the preceding hours before a strike, you know, what Hegseth wrote in there, 12:15 Eastern Time, F-18s launch, 13:45, 1:45 p.m., trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts, 2:10, more F-18s launch, 2:15, strike drones on target, 3:36, F-18 second strike starts. I mean, these are very specific things that he lays out in the chat without question before a strike. You don't want the enemy or any adversary, or frankly anybody, including journalist Jeffrey Goldberg, to be aware of what's going on here. That's why, you know, Goldberg was like, there's no way this is real. And then he says he's in a Safeway parking lot after doing grocery shopping, and he's like seeing this come through, and then he turns on the TV and is like, oh, this is I'm on a real chat here. Like, they actually just bombed Yemen. So it looks like, you know, they took issue in the administration with the fact that they called it war plans. Hegseth and others are like, these are not war plans. You know, that's just, you know, the journalists going overboard. And so they're parsing the word war plan. You could call it attack plans. But, you know, you have Hegseth, White House officials saying this is fake news. The media is peddling hoaxes here. And so that appears to be part of the pushback that you're hearing here from the administration. Hegseth not backing down. Trump continues to defend the folks around him. Asked about it again during an event yesterday. He said, this is a witch hunt. Why are we even worried about what Hegseth wrote in there? Why are you bringing him into it? And it's like, despite what he wrote in there. And again, these are people, Hegseth, Trump, others, who were very critical of Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, others, when there was any semblance of potentially classified information coming out, not holding true to national security. And that's a bit of what you hear from the response from the White House. You know, they're pivoting to, what about the fact that Joe Biden didn't fire anyone after the failure of the Afghan withdrawal that led to 13 service members dying in Kabul in the summer of 2021? And so thankfully, it does not appear that this got out to anybody that could have caused Americans harm. Nonetheless, continues to be of concern to Democrats, Republicans, even in Marco Rubio, who was on the chat, who's probably the most forthcoming so far. He was asked about it at a press conference yesterday. He said, yeah, mistakes were made. That journalist should not have been on the chat. Now, Marco Rubio, if you look at the chat, and again, we have the whole thing posted on Instagram, probably did the least amount of, had the least amount of issues there. He basically was like, I'm here, and later congratulated them on the strike, and, didn't reveal anything that he shouldn't have there. One person I spoke to, as we mentioned at the top, Mark Kelly, senator from Arizona, former naval aviator, flew into battle, and is very familiar with war plans, classifications, etc. He was one of the senators who was questioning Tulsi Gabbard and Ratcliffe and other intel officials Tuesday on Capitol Hill. We had the chance to speak with him yesterday, and he says, point blank, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth should be fired. Take a listen.
If any officer in the military, if any admiral or general or mid-grade officer, junior officer did what Secretary Hegseth did, they'd be gone. No doubt.
Well, one of the things that came up with the president yesterday, there's a convenience factor.
Convenience is great, but not when it comes at the expense of putting service members that are already significantly risking their lives at further risk. Tough. I don't give a crap about your convenience when it comes to, how we're going to treat these pilots coming off the aircraft carrier.
So those are the words there from Kelly. He says that he expects to have an opportunity to question Hegseth in the coming weeks about this. The White House is hoping, though, that this will blow over. Very much, again, Trump standing by the team. It doesn't appear like any heads are going to roll based on this. Trump, again, on Tuesday called it a learning lesson for his team. The White House reiterating that no one died, even though a number of people in the military say, people were put at risk by this. And there have been various reports and warnings from government agencies that you should not be using Signal, that Signal is hackable, especially for things like dropping the timing of a bombing campaign that was set to happen. One interesting thing about Kelly, he's like, I use Signal. It's better than texting. It's more secure end to end. I mean, more secure than texting, not as secure as secure apps would be. But he says that he would use Signal to say, like, hey, let's have a meeting about the thing we talked about, and then leave it at that, and then go meet or communicate via secure devices. That's where things stand right now. But you have a lot of people in the military at DOD who are like, listen, I would lose my job for anything remotely like this. And so there is frustration among the folks that we've talked to within the military that they feel like there's a double standard for the Secretary of Defense and other folks on that chat.
So as for what is next here, if neither Congress nor the White House acts, the judicial branch could have a say. The watchdog group American Oversight has actually filed a lawsuit alleging that Hegseth and other officials in that chat violated the Federal Records Act. And in a crazy turn of events, the judge that Trump has been attacking online for blocking his use of the Alien Enemies Act for Venezuelan migrants, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, has somehow been assigned to this case too. Is he the only judge? What is happening?
There's only a handful of judges and they go on rotation. There's lots of cases and he has experience dealing with intelligence matters. And so there's only a few. And so Judge Boasberg looks like he's back and he's going to be hearing this case too. So this will continue and it'll be coming up today, Jill, when we're at the White House.
Time for the speed read from Axios. President Trump on Wednesday announced 25% tariffs on automakers that do not produce their cars in the United States. The auto industry has always loomed as one of the biggest potential casualties of the administration's trade policies. And these levies threaten to put new pressure on consumers as prices will inevitably rise. Trump from the Oval Office on Wednesday announced the tariff on cars and light trucks. He said the move would encourage automakers to build plants domestically. He told reporters, we will effectively be charging a 25% tariff, but if you build your car in the United States, there is no tariff. What that means is a lot of foreign car companies are going to be in great shape because they've already built their plant but their plants are underutilized, so they'll be able to expand them inexpensively and quickly.
So this trade saga, the on-again, off-again tariffs in a variety of sectors and countries have been weighing on the auto industry. The auto industry in particular, parts are manufactured across the globe, including in Canada and Mexico. In many cases, whether it's an American brand like GM or Ford, or a foreign brand like Hyundai or Honda or Toyota, in many cases, there's a part made in Mexico, a part that's manufactured in Canada, a part that's here in the US, and cars can go across the border multiple times here. So it's a complex matter when it comes to tariffs on vehicles. Nearly half of the light vehicles sold in the US are imported. Now, against that backdrop, Trump says that he wants to find a way to support industry here and bring more manufacturing to the U.S. As of right now, 5 countries supply the majority of U.S. auto imports: Mexico, Japan, South Korea, Canada, and Germany. 3 of those countries, Mexico, Canada, and South Korea, have had duty-free access to the U.S. auto market under free trade agreements that we've had. So we're waiting on some more details here as far as what's going to happen here. But apparently, according to White House officials, if a car made in Mexico contains 50% American content and 50% foreign content, that 25% tariff would be cut in half to 12.5%, because half of the car is American-made parts. So I guess they'll be having to run calculations on every single vehicle and the percentage of parts made here in the U.S. Versus a foreign country here. These, again, are set to start in early April, but there are estimates that depending on the car that you buy, that it could cost $1,000 more, $5,000 more, and even some vehicles up to $10,000 more, depending on some of the dealers that we've spoken to. So there is concern about the impact this is going to have on the American consumer. As you know, for Trump and the White House, this is very much a long-term strategy to change things. But what happens in the meantime?
From the Wall Street Journal, Wall Street bonuses surged 31% last year on rising markets and a rebound in deal-making activity. Although some are already wondering how long it's going to last, the average bonus rose to a record $244,700 last year, up from $186,000 the year prior. This is according to the New York State Comptroller's Office. Adjusted for inflation, it is the highest figure since 2021, before the Fed's interest rate increases started to crimp deal making.
So this is good news for New York. A lot of these finance guys in New York, they pay taxes to New York. There are some early signs, though, that while everyone is celebrating these bonuses this year, 2025 might not be as good a year as bankers initially expected. We've been talking about new inflation concerns, the tariffs, the aforementioned tariffs, and other issues in the market. And so what that means to next year's bonus is a big question mark right now.
Sticking with business news from CNBC, NBA champ Steph Curry teaming up with former First Lady Michelle Obama on a healthier sports drink. It is called Plezi Hydration. It's through Michelle Obama's public benefit company, Plezi Nutrition. The drink adds to Curry's growing portfolio of off-court ventures, the 37-year-old nearing the final years of his playing career. The sports drink market is a pretty crowded space, but Curry says that their focus on health and wellness makes it different. There's no added sugar or artificial sweeteners. There's less sodium than leading rivals, and a full daily dose of vitamin C. The sports drink category has largely been dominated by 3 main players. So you've got PepsiCo's Gatorade, that has a 61% market share, Coca-Cola's Powerade at 15%, and Body Armor at 12%.
So he joins now a long list of athletes and celebrities who have invested or created their own sports and energy drinks. Of course, the late Kobe Bryant had Body Armor. LeBron James has Mountain Dew Rise. Logan Paul, the fighter, has Prime. Advanced hydration, a big deal right now. Now, Plezi is not just Curry. There are other investors in the product, though we should note Curry also had apparently assistance from his wife, Aisha, who has a culinary background, helped with the creation and the taste of the drink. Plezi, which means fun in Creole, will be available in 3 flavors: lemon lime, tropical punch, and orange mango twist. I don't know if I'll be trying orange mango twist.
Yeah, not for me. None of them, actually. I don't really like tropical punch or lemon lime, but
this story not brought to you by Plezi. We're lemon lime. I'll like, I like the lemon lime Gatorade, so I'll give Plezi lemon lime a shot.
It's basically the Gatorade flavors. I mean,
Gatorade was like one of the first movers in this space. Now everybody's got one. Though we here at Mo News also have a partnership with our friends at Element. If you haven't tried them, drinkelement.com/Mo News. They have the little electrolyte powder that we like to use here.
From Yahoo Sports, it took nearly a decade, but someone finally won Warren Buffett's $1 million NCAA tournament bracket challenge. The winning employee took home the grand prize after picking 31 of the 32 first-round games correctly. Buffett's bracket challenge, not available to everyone. Only employees of Berkshire Hathaway, where Buffett is the CEO, can enter. Buffett has been running the challenge since 2016, although the conditions for winning have changed. So on Monday, the company sent out a press release confirming an employee took home the $1 million prize by correctly predicting all but one of the first round games. 11 other Berkshire Hathaway employees also got 31 of 32 games right in the first round, but the winner got the first 29 tournament games correct before their first loss. The runner-ups will get $100,000, pretty good. And the big winner of the $1 million prize deciding to stay anonymous.
So Buffett apparently has been running a bracket challenge for a while. He's 94 now, but good for him. Still running a bracket challenge over there. In 2014, he launched a $1 billion challenge to any employee who could correctly predict every single game. The issue with that, Jill, the odds of that, 1 in 9 quintillion. Do you know how big quintillion is? That is 18 zeros. 1 in 9 quintillion to get a perfect bracket. Like, it's not possible.
It's basically like getting struck by lightning 10 times.
Like a million times. Like 1 in quintillion. Like, like your odds of getting struck by lightning. Actually, let's look it up right here. Jill, your odds of being struck by lightning, 1 in 15,000.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
God,
there are 40 million lightning strikes a year. Yeah, you should be more careful. You're like, no, it's like getting struck by lightning a million times, like getting struck by lightning by like 17 lightning bolts at the same time. 1 in 9 quintillion are the odds of a perfect bracket, 18 zeros. So, not surprisingly, no one was able to claim it. So he's made it easier through the years. He keeps shifting the rules, change it from a billion to a million. Can you predict the first 48 games correctly? Nope.
No.
Can you predict the first 32 games correctly? No. Okay,
What's
fine.
it gonna
how about
take,
like 30
people?
out of 32? So there you go. But the way, it's Buffett. He's got like $140 billion. So he wants to give away some of it. So he's trying to find ways to do it.
Can anyone get one of the games right? Just pick just first round, just something. And finally, from the BBC, a large glowing spiral visible in the night sky over the UK Monday, believed to have been caused by a SpaceX rocket launch in the United States. Officials there say the shape was likely produced by a frozen plume of fuel from the rocket's exhaust, which reflected the sunlight and appeared to spin in the atmosphere. The cloud shape was visible for several minutes above the UK and elsewhere in Europe before fading. The Falcon 9 rocket from Elon Musk's space company lifted off from Florida on a classified U.S. government mission. The Falcon 9 is a reusable rocket. But some people in the UK, of course, originally thought that maybe this was some type of UFO or something else. The pictures are kind of crazy if you were to see that in the air.
Yeah, a lot of people out in Southern California and Nevada, Arizona, you guys have seen it from other SpaceX launches. Very cool images. Apparently the second stage of the rocket ejects leftover fuel that freezes instantly, and it creates this really cool spiral and pattern. But I'm not going to, those of you who want to believe in UFOs, you're free to. This was not it. Though the Kennedy Space Center says the launch was a classified mission. So we don't know what was headed up there. There's a lot of spy satellites and the like, or other missions going on up there. But in the meantime, we got a pretty glimpse, at least those of you in the UK.
Speaking of space, Moshe, we mentioned earlier you spoke to Senator Mark Kelly about that Signal chat, but he is also an astronaut, in case anyone was unfamiliar. So you asked him about what it is like to return from space, as we've been covering Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore, now back on Earth after an unexpected 9 months at the International Space Station.
Mark Kelly, he was a naval aviator, then he was an astronaut. Him and identical twin brother, Scott Kelly, both astronauts, both went up to space. Mark Kelly went up 4 times. He was a space shuttle commander a couple of those times. Longest he was up there was 2 weeks. Now, his brother holds the record, 340 days up there. And so they've done a whole bunch of experiments since they're identical twins on the differences between them and how space changed his brother. Here is a bit of Mark Kelly talking to me about space yesterday.
Recovery from a mission is about how long you were on the mission. If you go into space for 2 weeks, it's going to take about 2 weeks. My brother, it took about a year. Sonny and Butch, I imagine, will be 8 or 9 months. But it's hard on you. It's really hard on your body. You lose muscle mass, bone mass. My brother lost 20% of his heart mass from being in space for a year. So you come back and you've got some rehab to do. And you'll get most of that back. You won't ever get all of it back, but you get 99% of what you lost back. So you'll be in pretty good shape. The big unknown is long-term. How does the radiation going to impact you? In space, you get about 10 chest X-rays worth of radiation every single day.
Oh, wow.
So that takes its toll.
So, Jill, that's a remarkable stat he says at the end there, that when you're in space, it's the equivalent of 10 chest X-rays a day. That's how much radiation you're getting every day you're in space. So obviously could have a long-term impact. In particular, he's curious as to how his brother's going to look over time and how he's going to look over time based on how much more radiation his brother took in outer space.
Right. He's like, when we're both 80, if he looks 100, we'll know that space travel's not good for you.
All right. Now time for On This Day in History. We begin here in D.C. On this day, Helen Taft, First Lady Helen Taft, wife of President William Taft, and the wife of the Japanese ambassador at the time, plant the first 2 Yoshino cherry trees on the Potomac River, known as the cherry blossoms. The cherry trees along the Potomac were proposed by a socialite at the time. Helen Taft had lived in Japan when her husband had a role over there. She loved the cherry blossoms, and so as First Lady, she gave us these cherry blossoms that we should pop over there today to go see those cherry blossoms.
I was thinking that because I feel like cherry blossoms have gotten a lot of play on the podcast the past couple of days.
You got to take at least one selfie.
Wipe your camera first. If you don't have a selfie in front of a cherry blossom, did you really go to DC?
No, you did not. A couple more items here on this day in history. The aforementioned revolutionary drug that it celebrates a birthday on this day, Viagra, care of Pfizer, was approved by the FDA on this day in 1998 for use in treating ED. Now, of course, there's a lot of generics there. That whole industry, very, very large.
That's what she said.
We end here with a bit of music and TV history on this day. Skee-Lo, 30 years ago today. Remember Skee-Lo? He released a song, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. He released I Wish on this day, a tune known to many Gen Xers and elder millennials. On this day in 1976, Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill, sitting here on Capitol Hill, aired for the first time on ABC. And 20 years ago, also on ABC, Grey's Anatomy premiered. Grey's Anatomy, 20 years old today.
Moshe, believe it or not, Grey's Anatomy is still on. Season 21, currently airing on ABC.
There's always more plot lines at a hospital, Jill. Never ends.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Mo News Podcast. If you like what you hear, share this with your friends. It helps us grow. Follow us and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And review us in the App Store.
See you guys tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the Mo News Podcast. Have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed.